US government will change the classification of SPAC warrants from equity to liability for accounting purposes. SPAC business warrants are issued to early investors in the deals, giving them the option to buy more stock at a specific price in the future. Well, they are considered a deal sweetener for backers of SPACs as well, and have thus far been considered as equity in the balance sheet. And reports say that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has already been telling accountants privately about the rule change. Well, the problem is the U.S. SEC's vague treatment of SPACs has stopped new SPAC offerings from moving forward, as accountants would not sign off on financial statements until they get clarity from the regulators. Well, the SEC has already signaled it won't facilitate SPAC registrations until the warrants issue is addressed. Well, SPACs have raised nearly $90 billion in the first quarter of the year, exceeding the total issuance in all of last year. Well, in further signs that Joe Biden's administration is looking to foster a different relationship with Beijing than his predecessor, and reports say that U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will not name China a currency manipulator. Yellen is said to be finalizing her first semi-annual foreign exchange report, but the release date is still unconfirmed. Well, the U.S. previously designated China as a currency manipulator in 2019, but lifted the label within the 5 months to win concessions in a trade deal. The latest announcement will be widely watched here in Asia, home to 8 of the 10 members of December report's monitoring list, in addition to Vietnam's manipulator tag. While checking the latest on the currency performance at this moment, we are seeing strength on the dollar side for the onshore yuan, but for the offshore yuan, we are seeing that the renminbi is gaining momentum. Well, Alibaba Group shares rallied in New York overnight. This after China's central bank ordered the company's fintech arm, Ant Group, to restructure as a financial holding company. This means it will be regulated more like a bank. Well, Alibaba shares are almost 10% overnight in New York, and some analysts say that the overnight rally on Wall Street was spurred by the momentum buying of the company shares in Hong Kong on Monday. Remember, shares of Alibaba Group that gained by 6.5% at the close yesterday after a key source of uncertainty for the company was removed. Investors are also relieved that Alibaba's record $2.8 billion anti-monopoly fine was not more onerous, so we'll be checking its Hong Kong share price when the market opens later. And reports of Ant Group's restructuring first emerged in February, but this is the first time regulators have given significant guidance on how Ant should overhaul operations after halting its record IPO in November. Well, the People's Bank of China assessed that under the plan, Ant will cut links between payments service Alipay, virtual credit card product Jiebei, and consumer loan product Huabei. Well, the move is expected to curb Ant's profitability and valuation as regulators impose guidelines for firms that span multiple financial business lines. And experts say that it's not just Alibaba's financial unit that caught the attention of the regulators.
One, the government does not want to kill the internet giants. But two, is even more important, the government wants absolute control over the media. They don't want these internet giants have too much control over the media and over the population. That's something that they don't want. Only the government will be allowed to have all this big data on the population. They don't want anybody else to have it, and they don't want anybody else to share it. I think this is the red line that the government indicated.
Up next on Asia First, protesters in Myanmar vow to step up their campaign as the country marks the start of the traditional New Year holiday. Cross-strait tensions ratchet up after Taiwan reports the largest incursion yet by Chinese Air Force.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
An investigation into the unseen costs of the pandemic.
陸路嘅界全部都冇開啦，海上面走私喺過去1年係多咗好多。
It was decided that we would shut off the internet.
People obviously were not getting enough information about what was happening.
We expect that the number of people with diabetes may increase around 20%.
A brand new season of Undercover Asia.
The ideas, aspirations, and attitudes of Singaporeans are changing the nation that raised them.
Passionate Singaporeans living out their very ambitious dreams.
Write the story of greatness. That story will perfectly communicate.
I guess a part of me wanted to connect even deeper with the people.
There's no point playing it safe. Safe will always be forgotten.
If we as Singaporeans are able to have a satellite that we can truly say was conceived, designed, engineered, and built in Singapore, wow, how wonderful would it be?
In Singapore, we don't give up.
It's 8:30 Singapore, Hong Kong time. I'm Avery Hall. Here's another look at our top stories. Japan officially approves the release of treated radioactive Fukushima water into the ocean. China and South Korea had slammed the much-anticipated move amid fears of contamination. Muslims around the world start the holiest month of the Islamic calendar, Ramadan, under coronavirus lockdowns or strict social restrictions. Authorities in Indonesia and Malaysia urge people to avoid large crowds during prayers. Thus, the WHO says the world faces a critical point in the pandemic, with nearly 4.5 million cases reported over the last week.
Well, anti-coup protesters in Myanmar have called for fresh rallies as the country marks the start of the New Year holiday today.
It's usually celebrated with prayers and water fights on the streets, but this year, protest leaders have called for different religious groups to pray together in a show of unity against the military.
But the call to action comes as more violence was reported in various parts of the country. In Dawei, a large group mounted motorbikes and rode through the villages as they sang and chanted slogans of resistance. There were also demonstrations in the second biggest city, Mandalay.
In Tamil, near Myanmar's border with India, security forces opened fire in a raid that lasted for 6 hours. A 7-year-old girl was shot, but it's unclear whether she survived. The number of casualties is also unconfirmed, as many residents fled their homes and are still in hiding. Elsewhere in Kachin State, 3 civilians were killed in clashes between the army and ethnic Karen insurgents. A human rights group estimates at least 700 people have died since the coup on February 1st.
But all these comes as ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi faces yet another criminal charge. She's accused of breaching COVID-19 restrictions on top of allegedly violating the country's Official Secrets Act. She now faces 6 charges. Ms. Suu Kyi's lawyers say that she has asked to meet her legal team in person. She has only met them virtually since she was detained by the military. Across stray tensions